Hi everyone, my name is Ami, and for this video I will be talking about this series, the I Am Number 4 or Lorien Legacies book series. And this video is going to be divided into two parts. The first part is going to be spoiler filled, which includes my review and my thoughts and opinions on each book. And for the second video that will come up after this one, I will be talking about the entire series in general. I'm holding my mouse so I can move my script. For this video, I will be talking about each book. I will be summarizing each book, giving my thoughts, my opinions. I will also be adding a few reading vlog clips that I took for books 6 and 7. Those are the only books that I read while filming. Why don't we start with a disclaimer? The subjective parts of this video will obviously be my opinions, my take, and will be based on my overall experience of these books. Obviously, I could be wrong, so feel free to comment down below what your opinions or your thoughts are regarding the books. And I would also like to say that the opinions that I will be saying here will not be including my take on the novellas. There are a hell of a lot of them, so I won't be reading them anytime soon, nor will I be including any of them in these videos. Next, we're going to talk about the premise. So this book series is about this alien race, the Loric, who come from Lorien. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but I'm gonna say Lorien. And they travel here to Earth after their planet has been attacked and essentially destroyed by this other alien race, the Mogadorians, and now they're being hunted here on Earth. So this alien race is consisted of two types of people. There are those with powers who are known as the Guard, and those without powers who are those who train them and tell them about the history of their world and all that stuff, and they're called the Capon. I don't know if I'm pronouncing these things right, but that's how I'm going to be pronouncing them all throughout the video because I'm too lazy to search. Do not copy. These surviving Loric, the 18 of them, as stated in the first book, travel to Earth, and they are expected to train and eventually be strong enough to take on this Mogadorian race. So the way these Mogadorians hunt the Guard are through their numbers, because before they were sent here to Earth, the Guard were protected by this charm that required the Mogadorians to kill them off chronologically. So there's numbers 1 to number 9. This charm protects them as long as they all stay away from each other. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and start with book 1. I keep touching my hair because this is the first time in a long time that I've actually brushed it. Okay, so the first book is I Am Number 4. Yes, I know this is the movie cover. Please don't yell at me. It was the only one that I could buy the time I bought it. Yeah, and I really liked the movie. So before. I Am Number 4. This book follows number 4, aka John Smith, and his Capon Henry as they travel to Paradise, Ohio, which is a very recluse town. So they travel there after John gets the scar, because they get a scar whenever one of them dies. Number 3 dies and he gets the scar, and they move to Paradise, Ohio. So it follows John trying to fit in high school, as well as train his legacies, because this is the time when he starts getting his legacies or their powers. So he meets his friend Sam, who has a strange fascination to the alien race and all that stuff because his dad disappeared out of thin air when he was really young. He always thought that it was because of an alien race. So yeah, John also falls in love with this girl, Sarah, in his high school. Things happen that kind of push John to show his legacies, and they eventually get caught by the Mogadorians. So it ends with this huge fight in their school with the Mogadorians, and Henry dies there valiantly. At the end of the book, during the fight, the huge fight in the high school, number 6 comes and rescues them. Yeah, that's it. They end the fight, and then they say goodbye to the Paradise, Ohio peeps, and they go, and yeah, because they become suspected terrorists after the damage that they've caused. in the school. So let's move on to my thoughts. First is, what do I think of John? I think he is one of the cockiest characters I have ever read. He is so full of himself. He keeps saying how the race is far superior to humans, and he keeps bringing up that I can easily kill these dudes but I won't, I have superhuman strength and intelligence and all that stuff. It really gets to me how cocky he is, and he also claims to be more intelligent than humans, but he can't see a trap for what it is. He's kind of blinded by the whole Gryffindor thing, kind of like Harry, but at least he knows the risks and still continues, but John doesn't seem like he knows the risks. His overconfidence is what causes a lot of the unfortunate events in the book. And also, he is very much blinded by his love for Sarah. He becomes foolish and careless about his actions. All the things that he and Henry have been working towards in their anonymity and keeping a low profile, all of that kind of goes down the drain because of his love for Sarah. So, Also, he is all talk about what he can do and his abilities and strength, but he doesn't actually do much. So next one I'm going to talk about is Sarah. Sarah, the love interest. She is the damsel in distress, essentially, especially at the last part of the book. John goes back to the high school, which is a very stupid decision, and he fights Henry about it. There were already signs of Mogadorians close by, and he still chose to go to the school after he made such a spectacle, a huge spectacle. So he returned because he wanted to say goodbye to Sarah, and I kind of understand his need to say goodbye to the person he loves, but I hate this damsel in distress thing, and she is so helpless at the beginning of the book, which is I understand that because she doesn't really have any background on fighting Mogs, or she doesn't even know much about them, but she's kind of swept into this whirlwind of battles and alien pew-pew alien superpowers, and just the whole battle. She doesn't have any experience with that, which is why I understand her lack of help. But she kind of is a dead weight because there were so many times in this book, in the last scene when they were going to escape, but Sarah kept freaking screaming for some... it was so annoying. Like, they had to be quiet and stealth mode their way out, but she kept freaking screaming at the smallest things, and it really... Yeah, okay, let's move on to my likes. What did I like about this book? I remember the reason why I bought this book is because of the movie cast and also because of the romance. Like, let's be real, Alex Pettyfer and Diana Agron's chemistry is outstanding. You can really feel the tension between them and the spark, the chemistry. It's unlike any other in the book series. Their chemistry is by far the best in all of the romance in the book. Second reason why I like this book is the characters. I really liked Six. She is the one who actually proves the superiority of Loric people compared to humans and Mogadorians, not John. And she was such a huge savior at the end, which is why I like her so much. I like her character and her strength, and she is obviously very much needed among them to eventually go against this alien race. The second character that I really liked was Henry. I liked what he was in the whole story. He was kind of like the father figure of John. He wasn't just a very paper kind of character. He had depth, and he was the voice of reason in John's life. You can really tell how smart Henry is, especially with all their hiding and all that stuff that wouldn't have been possible or effective if he wasn't there with John. Third character that I kind of liked is John. I know I said that I didn't like his whole demeanor and stuff, but without judging him as a person, but just as a character written in the book, he was consistent throughout the first book. His characteristics got them into really sticky situations that they barely got out of, and it is obvious how many flaws he had, which is great because we don't want to start off with a character who is absolutely perfect, right? He starts off very weak and untrained, which creates a stark contrast between him and Six. Next thing I liked about this book was Henry's death. It was more preferable to the movie version of Henry's death. It was more valiant. It resounded how the Lorien died in their planet, which was through a sacrificial way. Yeah, it really touched me. It again proves how well written the character was for me to be able to really feel the impact of his death. Let's move on to my dislikes. First, it's also on the characters. So first is Sarah. She is the love interest of John, like I said, and the first time I read it, I really loved her as a character. But now that I reread it this year, I really felt how bland she was. She was like a cardboard cutout of the perfect girl. She's not the popular cheerleader, but she's like friendly with everyone, and she has the quirky hobby, which is photography. She's basically the not like other girls. I think the only reason why I liked her the first time I read it is because Diana Aaron did such an amazing work in portraying her. She gave depth to this very paper character in the book. Oh, and also Mark James, very stereotypical, popular, jealous, overconfident main antagonist in a high school. Next thing I didn't like about this book, and it's also kind of a consistent thing I didn't like about in the next books of the series, are the fight scenes. I don't know if it was just me and my very tired brain, or if it really was like that. I found the fight scenes in this book to be very confusing to follow. I always felt like we were jumping from point A to point B without like a path leading to both points. They're kind of jumpy. I don't think the fight scenes were written well and in a way that was engaging enough to be followed by the reader. The last battle scene was also followed like
Deus Ex Machina
thing, where the characters weren't the ones who directly finished or resolved the main conflict of the book, but it was another something that wasn't even playing for their team until John used his legacies. And I guess it kind of makes sense that they used one of John's legacies that you would typically think of as useless in a battle scene to be the reason why they were saved. But it felt really cheap for me to read that there was this impossible battle and it was resolved through an impossible way. So overall, I gave this book 3 stars. It was okay. Yeah, water break. Next book. We have book 2, The Power of Six. This one follows 2 perspectives. One is John and the second one is number 7, who is Marina in Spain. So first we have John. So this follows John, Six, Sam, and Bernie Kosar as they escape and continue to hide from the Mogs, as well as the government, because they were seen as terrorists who kind of blew up the whole high school and killed a bunch of people. It also follows them as they try to train their legacies and match Six in her battle skills. John also grapples with his growing feelings for Six, as well as his already existent feelings for Sarah, and it's kind of a test of one of Henry's claims in the first book, that the Lorien only fall in love once. The key event in John's perspective was when John visited Sarah, because he was on the verge of cheating on Sarah. John visits Sarah and Sarah ends up calling the police on John. John and Sam were captured by the FBI and were then rescued by Six. Meanwhile, in Marina's perspective, we follow her situation, which is very different from John's, because she and her Capon mostly stay in one place, and she is brought up without any training in this convent because her Capon lost her belief and her hope for their planet and kind of became human. Like, she followed the religion of the convent. So there's a struggle there because Marina doesn't know how to deal with her legacies, and she goes through life blind, kind of wondering how she'll be able to meet up with the others and help. So eventually, Marina and her Capon Adelina are attacked in the convent by the Mogs, and she is saved by and escapes with Creighton and Ella, who are 2 Lorien people who came in the second ship that left Lorien. She brings with her Hector, who is her only friend outside the convent, and they're also saved and helped by Six, who left John and Sam to save Marina because John and Sam kind of decided to go and get his chest what are my thoughts? It really showed how Six was a super badass and was basically everyone's savior. John, meanwhile, is even more selfish and stupid than in the first book. The whole reason why they were captured was because he chose to visit Sarah despite knowing how they were wanted by the government. Likes. It had more action scenes than romance than the first book, which really made it more interesting of a plot. Dislikes. First is John and Six's romance. I really felt like it didn't make much sense. It was very forced and kind of fabricated by the circumstance in which they found themselves. It was kind of just like a test for John's feelings for Sarah, and if what Henry said about the whole Lorik falling in love once in their entire lifetime was true. And second is the way they resolved the plot holes in this book. The plot holes were immediately and conveniently covered up after a paragraph that reveals the plot holes. It was like the writers just discovered when they reread the whole thing that, oh my god, there's a plot hole here, we have to fix it, and they immediately fixed it in the next paragraph. So overall, I gave this book 4 stars. I enjoyed it more than the first book. The plot had a little more depth, and was a little more interesting than the first book, despite the first book having a lot more scenes than this one. Yeah, moving on to the third book, The Rise of Nine. So in summary, we have 3 perspectives in this one. The first pair of perspectives follow 6 and 7 as they escape Spain and they go to meet number 8 in India. So they meet 8, they learn about these Lorik stones that enables them to teleport in different continents where other stones are located. It also shows here the development of Marina's feelings towards 8. In this book, Creighton, who is Ellis Gargan and is one of the people who traveled in the second ship from Lorien, also dies. They use the Lorik stones to travel back to the US, and 6 is separated from 8, 7, and Ella. Yeah, that's when the 2 perspectives diverge. Second perspective is John. So he and Sam are trying to retrieve his chest from this MOG military base in West Virginia. So in that base, they rescue number 9, who was imprisoned there for a year because of the circumstances, and Sam tried to find his father in that base. Sam was left behind while John and 9 escaped. John goes to live with 9 in Chicago, and they kind of rest there for a while and regroup, try to make a better plan than just barging into that base again, and that's when John claims to be Pittacus lore out of nowhere. He got the idea from Henry's letter that said that they were essentially the future elders, and one of them was going to be Pittacus lore, who will be the one with the ability to kill Setrakusra, their main enemy. Next, we follow the base in New Mexico where 6 was captured. That's where they learn about Setrakusra and his powers, the dude behind the entire Mogadorians chasing after them. So 6 is captured by humans who work with the Mogadorians. So John, 9, 8, 7, and Ella go to New Mexico to kill Setrakusra and to save 6. When they go there, they find Sarah, and that's when she reveals that the person who called the police on John in the second book was actually Setrakusra, pretending to be her. They try to battle. 6 is the one who tries to really battle Setrakusra, and she's defeated. There's a huge battle which they barely get out of, but Setrakusra ends up escaping and the group leaves together. Thoughts. First, Marina is selfish and hella annoying. Yeah, that's my only thought here. Likes. What did I like about this book? It was a real page turner and it was very enjoyable to read. I liked the dynamic that the characters had. For example, 9 and 4, they had strong personalities and they fight about that, and eventually they grow out of that and become best friends. Yeah. So what did I dislike about this book? The fight scenes were again very confusing and hard to follow. Second, John's character development, it was very abrupt. In like one chapter, he was the same guy. In the first 2 books, he was selfish and immature, and in the next chapter, he was incredibly mature and responsible. Also, another thing I disliked about this book is the convenient resolutions once again. In this book, there were so many times when Pittacus could have easily killed them, but for some reason he didn't. For example, when Pittacus turned into Sarah, pretended to be Sarah, why didn't he just kill John instead of like having to report him to the freaking police and stuff? Like, wasn't that the whole plan? And also there were a few deus ex machina resolutions here in the book, which made the overall plot a lot less realistic. Overall, I gave this book 3 stars, and yeah, it wasn't the best. Moving on to the 4th book, The Fall of 5. This is my favorite book out of the entire series. And summary. So this book follows John, 6, Marina, 8 and 9, Sarah and Ella as they go back to 9's apartment in Chicago and figure out what to do next after that huge battle after their first encounter with Pittacus. So it also shows how Sam is saved by his dad, Malcolm, as well as this Mogadorian turned ally, Adam, from imprisonment. Right, because they forgot him in the New Mexico base. Anyway, while the guard and Sarah rest and try to plan their next move in 9's apartment, number 5 sends out like a crop circle, a message to the guard, and they kind of make a plan from there, how they're gonna rescue him and all that stuff. John and 6 decide to rescue 5. There they encounter and have a battle with Mogadorians and this new creature, and they're helped and saved by Sam and Malcolm. So they all go back to 9's apartment and then they train together. After that, they kind of figure out their next move because 5 requests help in retrieving his chest in Florida. So he is accompanied by 6, Marina, 8, and 9. While Sarah, Sam, Malcolm, and Bernie Kosar stay at the apartment because John and Ella are in like a comatose state that Ella started. It was initially just Ella who was in that comatose state, which we learned to be like a futuristic dream of hers, and she kind of pulls John into that dream, which shows like the future that they have if the Mogadorians win this war. So we follow 6, Marina, 8, and 9, as well as 5 as they go to Florida. 5 reveals that he is a traitorous bastard with the intent of trying to recruit Marina, and 8 to going to the dark side, to the Mogadorian side. It all ends up with 5 killing 8 because 8 sacrifices himself for 9. Marina develops a new legacy because of that loss, and it ends up with 6, Marina, and 9 escaping from Florida. Meanwhile, in the Chicago place of 9, where Sarah, Malcolm, Sam, Ella, and John are, they are attacked by Mogadorians. John awakens, Ella is captured by the Mogadorians, and they're all saved by Adam. What are my thoughts? This is my favorite book in the series. My favorite scene in this book was the capture the flag training thing because it was so exciting to read. Also, it really showed their very short moment of being a family together, and it was really nice. What did I like about this book? First is the plot. The deaths in this book really affected me. I actually cried. The impact that 8's death had on me really showed how invested I was with the characters. And it's also pretty interesting how one of them dies in the middle of the series. Another thing about the plot that I liked were the scenes that made me nervous and really kept me at the edge of my seat. You can really feel the worry that comes because you're scared that one of them is gonna die. Next is 5's intentions. I think it was really interesting, and it made the plot a lot more realistic that at least one of them didn't have the same views, because you couldn't expect all of them to just train and put their lives on the line to fight this impossible battle against an incredible alien race. John and Sarah's romantic scenes were so precious and so nice. It was a lot better than in the first book, and it made me feel kinilig ako doon. And it was a really great break from all the action scenes. Lastly, Adam's subplot was really interesting. It added a little oomph to the plot because of his connection to number 1 and how he had this character development and all that stuff that was very different from the different kinds of people in his race. Kind of like 5. So next thing I liked about the fall of 5 is the characters. First is John. I know I said like in the last book that his character development happened in like 1 chapter, but in this one he really develops into a selfless and wise leader in the appropriate amount of time. Next is Sarah. She no longer is that naive damsel in distress who always needs saving. She acknowledges how she can be a dead weight to them and how she doesn't want to be that. She wants to be able to help them in this war against these Mogadorians. She doesn't want for John to always have to choose between winning the war and saving her, so kind of a little foreshadowing there. She wanted to learn how to fight, and she actually did fight. Dislikes. The only thing I disliked about this book is very nitpicky, and it is the inconsistency of the cursing. From books 1 to 3 until I think the half of this, there were barely any curse words, maybe a little S word there, but never the F-bomb. But at the end of this book, 9 drops the F-bomb out of nowhere, and it's kind of a really weird thing for the writers to do. I really wish that they started dropping the F-bombs at like the first books for consistency. That's the only negative thing I have to say about this book. Overall, I gave this book 5 stars. It was really enjoyable. I loved it so much. Next book. I'm kind of making it a lot faster now because this video is gonna be like 15 minutes long if I don't talk a lot faster. Next book is The Revenge of 7. So book 5, summary. We follow 3 perspectives, I think. We have John, we have Ella, and we have 6. So first, John's perspective follows John as they become allies with Adam. He kind of got the legacies of number 1. John was advised by Adam to attack their Washington base, the Mogadorian Washington base, which was where the really important dudes lived with their families. This place was named Ashwood Estates. And yeah, John attacks that place with Adam, Sam, Malcolm, and a bunch of Chimeri. And Sarah also separates from them and goes to Mark, and they continue the They Walk Among Us webpage so that they could gather more human support for their side against the Mogadorians. Next perspective is Ella, who is revealed to be the granddaughter of Setrakos Ra. We also learn how Setrakos Ra was originally supposed to be one of the elders, but then he kind of had a different ideology compared to the other elders, so yeah, he was kind of casted out. Ella was also bound to Ra, Setrakos Ra, that made it impossible to kill Setrakos Ra without killing Ella first. Like, whatever happened to Ra happened to Ella. Eventually, Ella obviously tries to escape with number 5, who had a change of heart after 8's death. It is made known to 5 how this charm works. Next perspective, we have 6, who is with Marina and 9 as they try to escape Florida. They rescue 8's body from an old NASA base, and they reconcile with the others in Ashwood Estates. Next thing that happens in the plot of this book is the Guard create an alliance with Agent Walker and a few of the FBI, and they plan to kill Bud Sanderson, who was the dude at the highest position who was Smog Bro. And so the Guard divide once again, those who are going to New York to kill Bud Sanderson, as well as those who will go to the Lorien Sanctuary. So we have first the Sanctuary, the events in the Sanctuary. 6, Marina, Adam go there with 8's body, and they attack the Mogs who are guarding that sanctuary, but they don't end up killing one of them, who is one of the Trueborn, Firi Dunra, who plays a major role in the next books. So they also learn about Lorien, the entity. It happens when they deposit their inheritances as well as 8's body in that well, and the entity kind of talks to them through 8's body and tells them about what it really is. The scene in the sanctuary ends up with Lorien spreading its powers throughout the earth, so the humans essentially have powers now. and become human guard. So next we follow the plot in New York. Sanderson tells them about the inevitable invasion and how it's supposed to start with the meeting of Setrakos Ra with UN members or something like that. Sanderson eventually decides to play for the Lorik team. They hijack Setrakos Ra's meeting with the UN and his speech to his people, so they kind of turn the human race against Setrakos Ra. It is also shown here, I forgot to add in the outline, that Bud Sanderson had one of the treatments from Setrakos Ra. John tries to heal Bud Sanderson, and through his healing powers he's able to take out all of the ooze in Bud Sanderson, so he kind of becomes his initial state before the experiments on him. John tries to kill Setrakos Ra but is stopped by Five, and that's when they learn about the charm with Ella. Setrakos Ra escapes with Ella, the invasion begins, and yeah, the book ends with Sam using his powers. What are my thoughts? First, Five, he still gets my blood boiling. Second thought is I really wanted Adam to end up with one of the guard. What did I like about this book? It was, first of all, very mind-blowing. The revelations at the end is what pushed me to rate this book 4 stars instead of 3. I really like 8's very short scene with Marina. It was such a tender and bittersweet goodbye. Also, I like that Lorien was a very neutral entity. Didn't want to fight for them, didn't want to fight against them. It just kind of did what it usually did, which is give powers. I also like 9 and 6, obviously. I like their characters. John also continues to develop as a character, which I really liked, even though he still remains as probably one of the weakest of them as the guard. I also like the bits of Henry mentioned. Henry played such an incredible role in John's life, so I think it was only fair to still continue adding him or bits of him in the next books. Disliked. I really hated Ella's parts. She didn't sound her age. She used a lot of deep words. Her thoughts were very not realistic, coming from like a prepubescent person. She was also very unlikable. Honestly, wasn't worth saving. Overall, I gave this book 4 stars. Next book is The Fate of 10. So we continue with how the last book ended in New York. John and Sam continue the battle in New York and evacuate people from it. They also meet one human guard named Daniela, who I think will play a major role in the next series. We also follow 6, Marina and Adam, as well as Firidun Ra in the sanctuary. They're trapped there because Firidun Ra, who they decided not to kill, which is a very stupid decision and will bite them in the ass in the next books, sabotaged and destroyed all of the travel thingies. Sarah, Mark, and Lexa, who was the operator of the second ship that left Lorien, helped them out there. They were warned by Ella through John that they had to like protect this place. Setrakos Ra arrives in Mexico and attempts to harness the Lorik energy from the sanctuary. Next, we follow Ella's perspective. So during that time when Setrakos Ra attempts to harness the Lorik energy, Ella jumps into the well where they deposited all of their inheritance, and she is possessed by the Lorik energy. With the help of this Lorik energy, or the entity, she tells the tale of Pittacus, Lore, and Setrakos Ra. She does this telepathically, so this includes all of the guard, human and Lorik. After that telepathic tale, we have the battle in Mexico. So Setrakos Ra beats Marina unconscious. 6 attempts to kill Setrakos Ra again and is backed up by Sarah. So 6 ends up wounding Setrakos Ra, but he doesn't die, and Setrakos Ra's retaliation against 6 mortally wounds Sarah, and the book ends with Sarah's last call to John. It was very sad, as you can see in this reading vlog that I will be showing you now. Play it! Hey guys, it's me from the future. I obviously didn't predict how long this video was going to be, even without the reading vlog, so I'm gonna go ahead and make those vlogs into a different video, and I'm gonna redirect you to them. If you're interested to know more about my in-depth opinions while I was reading the book, go ahead and click the reading vlogs down below. So there will be 2 videos, one for The Fate of 10 and one for the United as One book. And yeah, that's it for future me. Okay, bye. Here are a few of the additional thoughts and opinions that I haven't mentioned yet in the vlog, and this will also kind of wrap everything I said together. Okay, so my thoughts. The book was 80% fillers and 20% actual, relevant, and significant plot. It was a bunch of busy nothings that could have been condensed into one big book along with the last book. Sarah's death really hit me hard because in the Fall of 5, I really did appreciate very much her relationship with John, and I really wanted them to have like a happily ever after. I wanted them to go on that vacation they were talking about, but was it necessary? I think it was, because it is what really pushed John to become this leader that they needed during a war, and he really pushed himself to fight and become more than what he was in the last few books, so that he will be able to defeat and win this war for Sarah's sake and for all of those who died. Daniela, I hate her. Like I showed in the video, she was really obnoxious. She really felt like everything was about her, when in times of war, not everything is going to be about you. And yeah, it was a time when sacrifices must be made. She should have accepted how it was gonna be their fight as well, not just the Lorien's fight against Mogadorians. My next thought is Pittacus lore. This dude was like blinded by his love for his friend, and so much could have been prevented had he done his part. For my likes, I really like this history behind Pittacus and Pittacus lore, even though it had that trope of I can't kill you because you're my best friend thing. I liked the reason why Pittacus is the way he is. I liked his profile as the antagonist. I liked that he became what he was because of his political beliefs for equality. Because of this difference in belief or ideology, it made him a much more interesting villain who was really driven by this passion for equality to really do the very insane things that he does. What did I dislike about this book? Ella still cringe. I hate that she calls the entity Legacy. It's so cringe. I know it's supposed to be like a child thing, but it was meh. I hate that she became all-knowing. She's so full of herself, honestly. Marina, I also didn't like her character development. I felt like it was a bit too unrealistic. I felt like she was forced to be this person that she was obviously not, and it brought a lot of conflict in her character, kind of an inconsistency in her character, because the writers really wanted her to be this like moral compass, the kind one and the humane one, but it was very inconsistent with her desire for revenge against 5. Also, there were so many inconsistencies in the revelation part. Overall, I gave this book 3 stars. It is actually, I think, a 2.5, but I hesitated giving any of these books in this series rating lower than 3, so there you go. The last book is United as One. So it's about this ongoing worldwide Mogadorian invasion that's happening because the humans decided to side, except for the Russians. I don't know why the Russians were the ones, like, maybe because they had the same ideology. I don't know. But yeah, they were the only ones who didn't side with the Lorik in this war. We also follow how the Guard have become allies with the American military and government. So they hide in one of the government bases in Patience Creek. They rescue the human guard and take them to that base. So John also trains with his new legacy, his newfound legacy, the Simic. She's a cringy, corny ass name for a legacy. So they attack one of the big warships, and that's when we really see how strong John finally is. It also shows the way he handles his grief for Sarah. They end up attacking the last base that they haven't attacked already, which is the West Virginia base that they've been in before. So that's where Pittacus was healing after what 6 did to him in the last book. In the final war, so all the Mogs were easily defeated except for Fury freaking Dunra. Let's all blame Marina for that. Citracus Ra kind of accomplishes his goal with his experiments. He becomes immortal, right? And he isn't damaged by whatever they do to him. In the end, John is who makes him mortal, and Six is the one who kills Citracus Ra. Here's my reading vlog for that. Go on ahead and watch it if you want. Here are additional ones that I haven't mentioned there. Real quick before my battery dies. So thoughts, Marina is still very cringe. I hate her. John should have died with all his injuries and all that stuff. He's magically alive when Citracus Ra dies. Like, it's so cringe and so And though he does narrate the epilogue, I can easily argue that anyone else could have narrated this ending because he died, you know? You can also look at it from the perspective of the narrator, who is supposed to be Pittacus, right? So technically there wouldn't be any books about this race and stuff had John not survived. What did I like about this book? I like that it was Six who kills Citracus Ra at the end, not John. No one deserved to kill this bad dude more than did Six because of all her attempts, and she was the one who really wanted to kill him the most. I really like that scene when John awakens and he imagines Sarah. It was such a bittersweet scene. It made me cry. Also, that scene when John visits paradise. I was really emotional. It really made me as a reader know that John was still grieving, which is important because it is unrealistic for him to move on that easy after losing the love of his life, right? Yeah, it was a great tribute also to Sarah and Henry, that scene. Disliked. I hate that the human guard did not end up fighting after John like amped them up to fight this war that was also actually theirs. Like, the build up towards an army consisting of both Lorik and human guard wasn't followed up because John decided not to have them fight. And I understand that they had to be saved because they weren't ready, but I feel like they were mostly not included because they were needed for the next series, which is really cheap for me. So like, what was the point of the recruitment? And the last minute change of mind by John was very spur of the moment, kind of. It lowered the stakes and the involvement that these human guard had in the story. Final battle, I think it was built up to be this insane thing, but it ended up being a lot less dramatic than the actual first scene against the Mogs in the first book. It was very anticlimactic. It was also quite unrealistic how no one actually died despite the circumstances. Like Adam and Five, they should have died, right? It is only realistic for them to die because they got sucked into that group and stuff. So I didn't really understand why they survived. And again, it would have been the great and ultimate sacrifice if John died. Even if this would have been like an expected ending, I think it would have really wrapped up the whole thing nicely and wouldn't open the possibility of a John and Marina relationship. I hate that. The epilogue, I really didn't like that it kind of ended with an X-Men kind of thing. It was like a cheap knockoff of X-Men. I also hated, like I said, John and Marina's like new relationship. It felt really forced. Like, this relationship was created for the sake of giving them like a love interest. They didn't have any chemistry, they didn't have any history, so for them to have a relationship just solely based on that, didn't make sense. Overall rating for this book is 3 stars. I don't know why I held it that way. 3 stars. And yeah, that's it for me. Before my camera dies, I have to say goodbye. Okay, bye.